Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griff and I, plus a special guest, are continuing our weekly preview format. We're going to preview week 3 of the Seahawks versus the Carolina Panthers, and joining us to do that is an excellent guest for this. It's a guy who writes for the Ringer NFL. He does quarterback rankings. You may have seen his work also previously at USA Today. Stephen Ruiz, thank you so much for doing this, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I like that fancy graphic intro. We don't have that at the Ringer.
Hey, you got to know some people.
Yeah, we're a high production podcast here. So
Did you make that, Griff?
I didn't actually. Was it you or Ty, Maddie?
I believe it's Odyssey.
Oh, what? That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, our higher
company.
ups. Yeah, you got to talk to corporate about that. That's
Right,
above our pay grade.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not competent. Like we can't do that. So, Stephen, how did your Panthers fandom begin? I'm not sure how much of Twitter knows you are active on Twitter, but I'm not sure how much of Twitter knows your Panthers fandom at a brief, look.
I'm an objective journalist. I'm not supposed to be a fan, but I would say when I was like 8, I grew up in like the DC area. My whole family was Washington fans, and I just didn't want to be a Washington fan. I think that was a great pick by me as a kid. I had a lot
Yeah,
of foresight.
absolutely.
I avoided
Yeah.
all of that, but they were like a newer team. Like the Panthers started in 1995, so they had and then they had colors that were, I guess, I found cool as an 8-year-old, and that was that.
Yeah, I do often think that the Panthers uniforms look like, especially back then, right? They look very much like an 8-year-old designed them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I was into them.
You got ahead of or you were able to land some cool factor too by getting in early, then having Cam Newton be your quarterback. Even if you have down years, you still get to watch really cool quarterback play growing up.
No, yeah, I had to sit through Jimmy Clausen for that. I went to a preseason game in Baltimore. Jimmy Clausen's first preseason game. It might have been his second. I don't know. Don't fact check me. I thought he was going to be great.
Yeah,
He was
a lot
one
of
of the
people
worst
did.
quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Yeah.
These things happen. And obviously, Carolina has a new quarterback who we can talk about, who hopefully will be great. But Monday Night Football, where the Panthers lost a one-score game against the New Orleans Saints, that looked rough. Is that a true representation of the 2023 Panthers? What is your view on the team overall?
I do think it is. I think what side of the ball should we start with? I think on offense, you have a quarterback that puts some constraints on the play caller. I mean, you look at their like play calling breakdown. They're not running a lot of quick game. They're running a lot of 5, 7 step drops from the gun. Not a lot of under center. And when they run under center, they're pretty effective at it. They can't really run from the gun, but when they run from under center, they're pretty good at it. But they can't pass from under center. They called one pass from under center, and it was
Yikes.
a bootleg outside of the pocket. So it's tough. They're not running a lot of RPO either. So I think that early down, how you get those 4 yards on first down, that's something they're still trying to figure out. And when you have a quarterback who's 5'8", 5'9", you can imagine how tough that is.
Yeah, not being able to run any under center play action, considering how that's kind of like a cheat code. Like Mitchell Trubisky can be efficient with under center play action for a stretch. You can't even have that in your offense. That's troublesome. I mean, you're talking about not even being able to get off the ground.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's the same conversation that you guys were having with Russ. I feel like you look at like the passing map, over 10 yards in between the numbers, he hasn't completed a pass.
Thanks. Yeah.
What?
He has one
Yeah.
pass like right at 10 yards. It might be like 10.1 yards, but beyond that,
Yeah.
11 yards
Yeah.
and up, there's literally nothing. And he's only
So
attempted about 2 or 3.
that's the Yikes City. So what do you? I mean, if you're to don like a positive outlook, just for the sake of the exercise, what do you think his staples are going to be, given his like skill set, what he does well, but then also like the inherent drawbacks?
I think you're going to have to do like out perimeter quick game, like a lot of stick stuff like that. I mean, it's really tough. I think they're trying to kind of like play with his drops. Like he's taking bigger steps on his drops to get the timing right. They're like he's taking deeper drops with shorter routes. It's really you have to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I don't think they know, and I don't have an answer. If I had an answer, I think I would be on the staff right now. But
right.
I mean, it does sound so similar to Russ.
Yeah.
Like the in gun, Russ would often, even on like so-called quick game concepts, the drop is slightly deeper than usual, as you've said. And the lack of I like how you also in your quarterback rankings that I mentioned described Bryce Young's Joe Burrow like calm but discomfort in the pocket. Because those two things people might find conflicting, but they're not. He wants to improvise, and already I've seen elements where he gets out of the pocket and he can't get out of the pocket as quick as he could in college, obviously, because everyone's so much quicker. But I mean, Frank Reich, the idea there is it's so surprising to me that there's no RPO either, because meme-wise, Frank Reich's notorious for run-pass option plays, right? So I guess this season's about finding the core concepts for Bryce.
I mean, it's not like 0 RPO. I think they've run like 5, and he's only passed one of them. And it's like your typical fair like bubble screen. It's not anything like innovative or anything he was really running at Alabama. I feel like Alabama's a few years beyond like the inside zone bubble RPO.
Right.
They did run the Dolphins RPO, the wheel route, the flat, and then I guess it's a glance. But yeah, beyond that, it's like they're trying to find their what they're going to do, what they're going to base out of, and I don't think they found it yet. I mean, it's 2 games. I think, like Griff was asking for positivity. I think that's it. Like they just haven't had a lot of time. Like you think about the Dolphins at this time last year, they really hadn't figured out what they were going to do with Tua.
True. I mean, do they at least have anyone they can throw like a go ball to? Like,
I mean, DJ Chark in theory.
I like DJ Chark coming out. He had like one good game against Alabama. I was like, this guy can beat press coverage.
Right. I think he's proven himself as like a guy that can run a vertical route if he's getting pressed. Like if you're getting cover 1, he's a guy that can win on the outside. That's it. To be fair to Bryce, like, they don't have a lot of targets you can trust to just win. But I don't think they're seeing. I don't think it's a personnel problem at this point. Like when you watch him play, like even in clean pockets, even when there are guys open, he's not seeing them. It's rough right now, but I think he is the type of player who has to find comfort, and I think that takes time in the pros.
For sure.
Like I think even Lamar Jackson, like his first year, he didn't realize like how fast he was in comparison to the other guys. And I think in year 2 he figured it out.
Yeah.
Is the lack of under center passing, does that speak more to the receivers then? Because I know we've said how crazy that is, but that is crazy. Surely that would be the way to, you think how other short quarterbacks have conceded, and again we'll go to Russell Wilson. Surely more usage of under center. Is it like the receiver group can't threaten on like an intermediate race route, or is there a thing going on with Bryce himself?
I think it has to be Bryce. And like you read comments from like reporters, and they're talking about how they can't run a quarterback screen, and that's like a big thing for their game plan. Like they had a game plan around it. Like he does have limitations, and I think they're not going to come out and say he can't run from under center. But when you look at their play calling, you have to ask why they've only thrown once from under center. Like it has to be a Bryce thing. I don't. What's the other explanation?
Yeah, I mean, because you can just look at Reich's history with other quarterbacks, right.
So offensive line-wise, is probably, well, I'm not sure if it started yet, but there's probably a discussion which starts happening where it's like, is this the quarterback creating the pressure, or is there, is the O-line bad? Obviously, they spent a first-round pick on Ike Ekwonu. How is the rest of the line? How is Ike doing?
I mean, people are complaining about the line, but when I watch the film, maybe it's like out of context and I'm missing something, but like it doesn't stand out, the pass protection, as an issue. Like it seems like your typical quarterback who does like to get outside of the pocket, creating their own pressure. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, he's been bad in a clean pocket. He's been bad out of pressure. So I would say he's creating most of the pressure. And I think like Ike's been pretty solid. I think Moton has been, the right tackle has been, he's been good. I don't think he's played up to his usual standard. He's been fine. They lost their left guard. The center and right guard, they've been fine too. I really don't think pass protection has been an issue. I think it's been solid. It hasn't stood out.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised watching that Saints game. Okay, 1 game sample size, but it seemed like he had plenty of time that you would desire really against their sort of stuff. So interesting. It's quite funny hearing, the over the middle throws are a weakness given, as in for Bryce Young throwing, and they don't really exist. Given that those inside the number stuff is what Seattle's been giving up in the last 2 weeks, so I know Seahawks fans will be encouraged by that. Same thing if this is I think with their DB group versus the receiver matchup as well, I think they should be feeling positive about being able to shut it down for once, actually not get beat through the air. Griff, I know you were wondering about Devin Witherspoon's impact against this receiver group.
Well, yeah, Steven, I was wondering if you just had any general like Devin Witherspoon thoughts rolling around in your head still from around draft time. If you had a particular take about him, any preconceived notion, kind of just beyond like general notion, like he's a first round caliber guy.
I honestly don't. I'm going to be honest with you. Like this draft season, I didn't spend a lot of time on cornerback, so I didn't have a take on him. Like I've been watching him through your tweets. So
sure.
Any opinion I have is going to be based on your opinion. So, I mean, you can answer the question as if you were me.
What is that called? Tautology. So you just, I mean, then in that case, it's moot, but he's a rookie going into his second game, and he's got a lot to figure out, but like right away his talent showed up. But a lot hinges on him doing well for Seattle's defense. A lot hinges on Seattle's defense with him doing well. So that'll be a match, an interesting matchup to watch. I mean, he should be able to handle Adam Thielen, DJ Shark, Mingo. If he isn't, if he doesn't, then you cope and just say, well, it's a rookie. But if he does do well, it's like, well, he should have done well. So I don't know. Beyond that, Maddie, did you want to move to the other side of the ball?
Yeah, do it. I want to know what's going on with JC Horn. Obviously, a top 10 pick in 2021, right? Coming out of South Carolina. He's looked pretty damn good in his first 2 years, right? But he's hurt now?
Yeah, he's hurt every season. I think he's been a really good player when he's been out on the field. Exactly the type of player you wanted when you drafted him, like that physical alpha cornerback. Mm-hmm. But he can't stay on the field. And I don't know what you do about that because it's decision time in the offseason. It's 5th year option time in the offseason, and now it's guaranteed. So I don't think that's getting picked up. I don't know how you could do that unless he just comes back. And I mean, he's out for at least 4 games. He went on IR. So that's the rough part. You don't know when he's coming back, but he is a good player. I fear it's going to be one of those situations where next year he stays healthy and then he doesn't have a contract and they have to overpay. That's what it looks like right now. I think he's a very good player.
Yeah. This is one of those situations where I feel ignorant for saying this, but I don't know anything really about this defense other than JC Horn, and then the front is meant to be really good. Obviously, headlined by Brian Burns, and the fact that Seattle's still going to be without their starting tackle pairing. Abraham Lucas still on injured reserve. Jake Kern filled in well. Stone Forsythe filled in well on the left side. Charles Cross might be back. I heard a 1 to 2 game time frame for him, and he's missed 1 game. But how good is this front, and is there anything more to it than just the front? Is there guys I've just disrespected with that comment?
Not really. Like they just lost Shaq Thompson. I think Jeremy Chinn's a good player. He just hasn't been the player that we wanted him to be. He's not like a coverage player. I do think Evero is doing a lot of like fun stuff with the front. They do a lot of movement stuff. I will say that, like a lot of fire zone. The line is good. I'm worried about the linebacker situation, especially now that Thompson's out. I'm worried about how they're going to match up with Seattle's offense. I don't think it's a good matchup for them. And I think like Seattle, if they can run the ball, if they can get play action going, I think they're going to have a lot of success against the Panthers in the passing game. It's their linebackers play really aggressively, and they do a lot of like post snap changing the front. Like they'll blitz a linebacker, plug a gap to get into like bare spacing.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of that, but I don't like they've played two offenses that are like kind of different, but they do use bigger body types in Atlanta. Like that's no one runs an offense like Atlanta. I would say
Right.
Seattle and New Orleans, there's a little bit more overlap there with the formations you're seeing. So I think you can throw out that first game, but I think the second game, it will be similar in terms of game planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked what Evero did in Denver, and it sounds
Hmm.
even though they couldn't stop the run at all, but like they did some cool stuff, and that fire zone into or blitz into the linebacker to get into bare spacing to kind of adjust the weaknesses of the running a nickel like forefront all the time with two really wide outside backers. That was something cool that Seattle wasn't doing last year, and me and Griff were like, hey, this would really help against like duo gap runs, that sort of thing. But
yeah, of all the Fangio guys that we throw that term around now, Evero was really the only guy last year that impressed me with what he was working with, and he had a lot of attrition to his defense, and I think the dam finally broke like the last like lap of the year for him in Denver. But I mean, he accepts that like arithmetic and geometry is real on the field. Like he'll get numbers where like it's hard to play a 4-man front with two gapping interior defensive linemen and your second, third level fitters coming from 15 yards. And like he accepts that you can't live in that. You might have to do it a lot, but you can't be in there all the time and be super static post snap with it. So yeah, you'd see like you said, like he's blitzing into bare spacing post snap to at least like, even if it's a 240 pounder taking on a guard, you're at least releasing that guard off the 2i. And like now that 2i can work down the line and be free. So I mean, he does stuff like that. So him with, at least a talented line, Brian Burns, like it's sick that they brought in Justin Houston, who still got it.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think he'll be wielding his skill sets all year long. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to play good defense without good linebackers in the NFL right now. And we talk about the devaluing of linebackers, but all the best defenses, most of them still have good players at the second level.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he kind of makes up for Thompson going out. I wonder if it's like more dime. They haven't played really any dime. I wonder if because they don't really have the linebacker depth to play through these injuries, just do next man up,
Yeah.
So
I thought that would be where like Jeremy Chin.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
I haven't really watched him, but I thought that would be a fit for him. No,
that is what he is. Like he's a dime linebacker, but they haven't played dime so far this season. I mean, they did it under the last DC, but not under Evero so far. But again, the two teams they played, like big teams, tight ends, fullback bodies. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Could be situational.
Right, and Seattle's using 12 personnel, 13 personnel, like probably half their snaps right now. So maybe we don't see it. Maybe we do. I don't know. So, Griff, are you done with finding out about the Panthers? It sounds miserable.
Well, one more fun question: is Derek Brown the most underrated defensive tackle in the NFL?
Ooh.
Oh man, against the Falcons, watch him against the Falcons, against like Lindstrom. That's a good offensive line. Watch him. He just like throws them around. He ragdolls them.
He's
a good player.
I mean, yeah, he's a sick player, and I love that skill set was taken 7th overall too. But because normally you want like the flashiest of flashy,
I'm going to be the positional value guy, and I was not happy that skill set was taken 7th overall.
Well, no, I appreciate that.
A quarterback or like.
I appreciate that. That's just me being, caveman brain though, just because he's a good player. But
yeah, and he plays run defense, which is much more important when we're watching the tape back.
That's right.
We're sick. Okay, so Stephen, this game opens at minus 3.5. The Seahawks are that type of favorite at home, which isn't like that's not as big a line. I think it speaks to both their tackles still probably being out, and other stuff. They struggled against Carolina last year a bit on offense. But what is your general impression of the Seahawks from afar? Obviously, if you're not familiar, which you should be, but Stephen does cover the NFL from a national perspective. He's not just a massive Panthers homer. So, yeah, what do you think of the Seahawks?
Well, hold up. Let me interject here. For people that don't know Steven's lore, he's like the OG high-ranking member of Geno Nation. He's been on
2015,
Gino.
right?
He's
Like
been on
when he was
Gino
with the Giants.
2014. I was
Oh,
on
my
the
bad.
bandwagon back when he was on the Jets.
Yeah.
Me and Greg Rosenthal.
Yeah. He's your guy. So you thought that Gino always had this in him, or at least the ability to be significantly better than his reputation heading into last year.
Yeah, like everyone talks about how he improved, and it's shocking that he improved. Yes, he improved. Obviously, it's been like a decade, but I think this is like natural improvement over the years. I could see, like, if you showed me, you know how like those composite sketches when they get like, this is what the kid would look like if he was 20 years old.
Mhm.
Like that's if you look at Gino's tape in 2014, the composite sketch 20 years later is what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think. He's been a pocket passer, like someone who's comfortable in the pocket. He's always had a big arm. I think he's been ambitious. That's what I would call him as a passer, like when he makes decisions. Yeah. And I think that's always been there. I think when you're a young quarterback playing with bad players around you, you're going to make mistakes. And I think that's what we saw out of him. But if you watch that tape from the Jets, especially that second year, the last month, I was shocked that he didn't get another chance after that.
Yeah, and I think people forget that Gino won the camp battle going into 2015 over Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was an established player. I mean, he got cut for a reason, but I mean, he was a franchise quarterback for a bit. And like you win a camp battle over Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then you bring in Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, coming off a hot year to end, or a hot end of the season of 2014. If I was a Jets fan, I would have been pretty hyped up. And then, but then he gets his jaw broken, and then the story's over, you know?
Yeah, and I think Fitzpatrick the next year actually got benched for him, and then Gino comes on and then tears his ACL in the first start. Yeah. And it was like a good start. Like I think if they were playing Baltimore and he got off to a good start, then he tears his ACL, and like we don't see him again until Seattle.
Right.
We've said it before. It's crazy going from Russell, where Russell's obviously got this out of structure ability, but when watching him at times, it's like, what is the concept he's trying to get through here? He's not really honoring the structure of the play here. To Gino, where Gino, you speak about that you see that the signs are there back in 2014 that if he just gets the chance, he's going to scale up because his process in the pocket, it's like a tape watcher's dream. It really is. You just can see all the dots connecting. He's playing quarterback in a way that,
it's total quarterbacking. It's like, you know the term total football, like soccer. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
This is total quarterbacking. That's what he does. Like when you watch it, like you said, it's real quarterbacking. Yeah. It's teach tape.
Yeah. He's almost like we're not just, crapping on Russ here. Obviously Russ is a very effective player when he's, all clued in, right? But if Russ, even at his best, is still hypersensitive in the pocket, Gino's almost completely unconscious to pressure. He still moves through it, but like he'll stick out to the bitter end and then take off like when he has to, like when he starts to feel like it's too much.
Yeah, he pushes it right up to that edge, like to a perfect edge. Whereas like someone like Daniel Jones, for instance, is also like numb in the pocket, but he's just oblivious. He doesn't know what's happening. Where Gino has like some sense, and you can see that sense playing out with how he moves around the pocket. It's like intentional. Everything's intentional with him.
Yeah. And to bring it back to the Panthers, not to segue too much, but like Cam Newton, as you know, like he's keep his platform always, and people think he has this reputation as a scrambler, but he's only taking off until he feels the first hit because he'll absorb it. He's like, all right, now I got to go.
Cam didn't scramble a lot, and at the end in Carolina, I'm talking about before the injuries, he like had stopped scrambling. I remember it was like during the 2015 season, there was like some next gen stat on CBS. I think it was a Thanksgiving game when they played the Cowboys.
I remember that. Yeah.
And there was a stat, and it was like the quarterbacks who had moved the least. And it was Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and then Cam Newton. And he will never get credit for being a pocket passer, but that's what he was.
He was amazing in the pocket, guys. He just used to hang in there for so long that guys were hanging off him as he was reading out what was going on downfield. He was not statuesque, but real tool in the pocket for as long as damn possible.
I think people conflate having a quarterback run game. If you have that, you must also be a scrambler, which he wasn't. Mm-hmm. He was a legit robot pocket passer. You could also run QB power with.
Good player.
So yeah. Anyways, Bryce Young is a little stylistically different.
Steven, what about, other than your Geno love, how else do you feel about the Seahawks aside from the quarterback position?
I really like Shane Waldron. I really like him. I think he's got the goods, and I think I'm surprised that he didn't get more head coaching love even this offseason because you could see it last year. But I think this year, the early stuff, like just how he's layering stuff and how he's building upon what they've already done. Like I don't know what tight end it was. I posted the clip on Twitter where they had like the three guys in the backfield. There was like a pistol, and there was two guys like the sidecar next to him, and they run like the 3-level concept out of it. And Detroit doesn't know how to match it at all. Like that is good stuff. Like you could see why he did that. You could see how it worked. And like with him, I think with the good play callers, that's what you can always see. Like there are some guys when I'm watching them, and it's just like they're calling random plays. I think guys like Bill Belichick, Kyle Shanahan, guys like that, you can recognize it. I think with Waldron early on, he's one of those guys for me. I mean, he's not as good as those guys. Those are he's the prototype examples.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like you got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Obviously, just drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, but like Waldron realizes like base personnel defenses have no idea what they're doing right now because it's such a sub package league. So, I mean, he's just milking 12 and 13 personnel for all he can, just because it's free yards. And like he knows Gino will just read it out, get the ball out, and they're printing money at the moment with it. And then once that gets corrected to, because some smart defense out there will wisen up to it, then you can fall back into 11, and then dice up people that way. So I'm really eager to see how he, like, I think he's going to have phases, and he's just going to stay in a phase until defense is correct. Then he'll just totally shift gears because he's establishing so much like different personnel groupings. There's a lot of I said this last week. There's a lot of breadth, but not necessarily a lot of depth yet because he hasn't needed to dive into that depth because he just has so much available to him at the moment.
I feel like when you hire one of these guys from the coaching tree, from the McVay Shanahan coaching tree, what you want to see is the ability to kind of stray from them, and I think he's shown that. Like, and he showed it. Like, I don't know about right away. Well, I guess he did because the Russ offense, when he had Russ for that 1 year, they like couldn't run the McVay stuff. So I guess he had to. But like now that he has his quarterback who he can actually run an offense with, you're seeing something totally different from what we saw in LA.
Right. And
not totally
year two with that.
There's some
Year two with Gino and how you can kind of see it becoming more Gino-fied. Now he's the clear starter. He's obviously been extended. That's pretty cool to see as well.
I think the fact that you can call, like Griff said, like Gino's going to read it out, that you can call some of these like bigger drops and he's going to get to the check down and you're going to get 4 yards. Like you're not going to take a sack. You're not going to have like this scramble that goes all over the field. I think it just makes it easier to call better, like more ambitious plays more often. I think like what you're seeing in Carolina is like the opposite. They can't really call this stuff with confidence, knowing that Young is going to read it out. He's going to hit the check down on time. That's not his game. And I think it really makes it harder for a play caller. Whereas like getting back to Gino Love, where he allows you to do anything.
Right.
There you go. So Stephen, we've been very much agreeing on things, but to bring up this is the big moment. To bring up your 2020 live draft grades article for USA Today. And you're used to being corrected on, or not corrected, but argued with on your ratings. I've seen some of the tweets you get on your quarterback stuff. It's crazy. But you graded the Seahawks an F for drafting Jordan Brooks at pick 27 overall. And then the Baltimore Ravens at pick 28 got a grade. And the Seahawks were accused of taking a run-stuffing linebacker who struggled in coverage. So Stephen, have you changed your opinion on Jordan Brooks?
Because I changed my opinion on him the next day. Now, let me tell you what happened. I'm not like a full-time draft analyst. I didn't know who the hell Jordan Brooks was when they drafted him.
Neither did we. Yeah.
My F grade was actually like how dare you make me look up this guy? And I based everything on whatever like PFF had on him. So playing PFF, that's my fault for trusting PFF. Well, no, I watched the tape the next day because I was like, all right, I'm gonna look like a fucking idiot. Can I cuss? Sorry.
You're good.
Well,
You're good.
Griff and I went through a very similar thing. Like, it literally started our podcast because we were like, why have they taken this guy live? And
like we have our live
reaction out there. And then we watched him, Griff, and we watched every game of his college career basically on all 22 because luckily there was lots of Texas Tech stuff. And Griff, we loved it, didn't we?
Well, the thing is, I mean, like when you're trying to zoom through and watch all these prospects, you're not watching all 3 years of a off-ball linebacker's career. If you only watch his senior tape pre-draft, which is what I would have done, you would have watched the scheme where he's not asked to cover. So that's a red flag. Like if you're not asked to cover, is it a scheme thing or is it because he can't do it? So you have to go back and watch it. Like, okay, you see examples where he's turning and running with guys, but you still have to project like in his conference, he's not spot dropping underneath in breakers. Like that's just not the defense they play in that conference. So like there are still a bunch of projections made, and you can still make in hindsight value arguments of like, well, did the rest of the league think he was a first rounder? Could you've gotten him in the second round? Whatever, you can play those mind games, but yeah,
it was crazy though. The PFF, you could see like the whole narrative. Like it wasn't just you, Stephen. Everyone had gone through and coverage weakness showing up on like every report I read of him. So that's why I found it so fascinating going back through and watching him like a maniac.
I will say this: I don't trust either of you guys on Seattle linebackers because you think every Seattle linebacker is Luke Kuechly. Because you see them do a technique that you read in the playbook.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they did the play.
But hold up though.
Here we go.
We were very honest with announcing Bobby Wagner as perhaps past his prime when most of the fan base does not want to hear that. Like we're like,
that's because he can no longer do the playbook techniques that you guys can see.
The chat is cheering you on right now, Stephen. This has been leveled at us before.
Yeah.
If I carried number 3 up the seam, you guys would call me Luke Kuechly. You guhave like give that guy $15 million.
Hey, can you do that?
The current Mike can't.
If Adam Thielen's running against the Panthers, I can.
Yeah.
Because I know Bryce isn't throwing it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. What a cheerful ending. But Stephen, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time. Make sure you follow Stephen on Twitter @TheStephenRuiz. Check out his work for the Ringer NFL, especially those quarterback rankings. Where I think maybe getting in the top 10 soon. That's not my knowledge. I'm just I'm suggesting. Not that Stephen would be influenced. Anything else you want to promote?
No, just quarterback rankings. I will say this: they come out tomorrow morning. I do think I put him over. He's past Tom Brady.
Oh right, let's go. No, you still got
Tom Brady in as a bid. I wanted to take him out.
That helps Gino's case.
Keep him in.
You got to throw Phillip Rivers in there, considering the rumors that are floating around.
Aaron Rodgers is out because of the injury, so Tom Brady has outlived
Get him out of there.
Aaron Rodgers.
Wow.
Are you doubting Aaron Rodgers? He's going to hear about that. Now, so when you submit this, do you just like mute all notifications and go to sleep, or are you like ready to do battle right away?
It depends. Some battles I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight a Brock Purdy battle. I'm not going to fight like a Kenny Pickett battle. Like Steelers fans were going after me. Like Bears fans were going after me about Justin Fields. I'm not doing that. Like Gino, I'll defend to the death.
That Herbert, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Stafford tier is just got to be hell though. That's like World War III.
Oh, especially this year after that first week. But I feel pretty good about the order now. Like I feel good about. The one I question the most is Allen at 2. Honestly, I wonder if he should just be penciled in there. I don't know if he deserves that at this point. I really think
he should have his
Herbert
own ranking. Just him, Josh Allen.
Yeah, he's the hardest one to rank.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to know because some of these guys are high variance, right? Inherently, like game to game and year to year, and then you have to. I'm sure, like the battles you fight in your own mind trying to do this is like, how do you weigh prior performance with like what's their current situation? Like one guy might be outproduced than the other guy, but like, do you necessarily think he's better player A better than player B? Right.
That's why I get the reactions I do is because
yeah.
I think that's how I ranked them. I'm not like afraid to rank them, like to have a weird ranking, like have Jalen Hurts be 10th.
Right. I was going to bring him
second because I sincerely, genuinely don't think I don't think he's the 9th, 8th best quarterback in the NFL. I think Geno Smith's a better quarterback than him, for instance.
Yeah. There we go.
Which,
I was on Bill Simmons' podcast earlier today and I said that.
Yeah, you're a real soldier. So we salute you here at Geno Nation, at Geno Nation Northwest Chapter headquarters.
There we go.
All right.
Well, make sure you check out at the Stephen Ruiz. Follow the podcast at Seattle Overload. Please do download it. If you've joined in live, thank you so much, and like the video and comment and subscribe. Follow Griff at C Mike Spin Move. Follow me at Matty F Brown, and we'll be back tomorrow with an all-22 review of that fun victory over the Detroit Lions. Check out Griff's video also on Geno Smith's game-winning drive. Very topical.
You have to.
You have to. No choice.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Goodbye.